Okay, well, welcome to the Chronic Minds podcast. My name is Ray Rose, and I have my guest today, Keith Smith,
Yep,
uh, very prominent man there, and I believe you're in Miami, Florida.
that's correct.
Yeah, so I can't really give you as much greatness to the name as probably he can himself. So I mean, just tell me about yourself, man. What makes you and what you about?
For sure, man. So, like you said, I'm out here based in Miami, Florida. I've been here for about 5 years now. Came out here for the University of Miami, still wrapping up there, undergrad. But have been doing a lot of stuff professionally in the meantime. And most of that has been based around technology and specifically Web3 tech, blockchain technology, and a lot of that on like the business side, like consulting and even like some media services, things like that. But outside of that, I spend a lot of time thinking about, technological and financial literacy. And here in the community, here on a grassroots level, really kind of like just spreading the word around some of the things around Web3, as well as just financial literacy in general. So I host a podcast and a lot of other things that are kind of just in the periphery. But that's the main idea for me is and what I like to work on.
Okay. What's the name of that podcast you hosting again? I believe it's
Yeah,
another platform for helping build financial literacy.
exactly. Yeah. So the name of the podcast is Cash Rules. And I do that with a co-host of mine. He's up in New York, in Brooklyn specifically, and he's an educational program designer. And so he and I came together almost a year ago now to think about how do we design a curriculum for high school, middle school students to learn about blockchain and Web3. And so we've just been working on that for the past year. And in the meantime, we were like, okay, well, with what we do have or what we do know, let's like build a platform around just making sure that we talk about the things that kind of go unspoken often when it comes to financial literacy. And that's one of the biggest things that the podcast is about is what goes unspoken about for especially people in their teens and youth. You don't learn about a lot of this stuff in high school, and you really don't learn it in college. Even if you study finance, you don't learn about personal finance. So how do we potentially address that fact as well? And then, what can people who want to make a difference about that in their communities do about it? It's kind of the point of the podcast to like really get those conversations going.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean that's beautiful, man. I'm hopefully anybody else hearing it now they give a chance to look into it. So man, how's your mental health? Like,
I like that question a lot. I personally have actually been going through a lot of stuff in my personal life where I had to check in with myself. And it was the first thing that I, sort of kind of checked in with because I realized that it was something that if I wanted to get to the next, you know, get over what I was going through, then I needed to like, and whatever was going to come next, right? Because, you go through things and you go through something else and, hopefully it doesn't get worse, but you can plan for things getting worse, right? So how can I check in and like future proof myself as well? So this has actually been a really, really big thing for me recently. So I'm not going to get too deep into my past habits, but what I will say is that I've stopped a lot of the things that I used to do in the past. So today, actually, in like 40 minutes, I'm going to get a reminder on my phone about how today is the 100th day that I have gone without any substances in my body. And although that's for me, that was a really big deal. Like without going too deep into my past again, that is something that has been a
oh
very
no, of
big change
course.
for me.
Congratulations on that, man.
I appreciate it. And I wanted to just mention that because since I've done that, I've been able to have a lot more clarity around like what it is that I'm trying to accomplish in my life, a lot more direction, and just being super focused, hyper focused on what I need to do for me. Part of what I was dealing with before was like trying to um, cater to other people in ways that I really wasn't equipped to do. And I actually had someone on the podcast. His name's Court Twitty, and he was talking about how we overextend ourselves because we want to do like great people as well. Like they overextend themselves often, whether that's emotionally, financially, whatever, because we want to give and we want to kind of like be that example of who it is that we look up to and we think that that's the right way to go. But what's super important as well is kind of like when you're in an airplane and they're going through the safety modules and they're saying, hey, if there's an air pressure situation, you want to put the mask on yourself first, right? And then you're going to be able to put the mask on the person next to you, take care of your kids or whoever it is that you're trying to, maintain the safety of. And so, yeah, that was kind of part of what I was going through was like, how do I check in with myself? How do I get my mental situation right? And now I've been able to I've been able to have so much more balance and keep a steady sort of level of energy throughout every single day because I've let the substances go and I'm building, more safe, more healthy relationships with the people around me.
Pretty valid, man. I mean, you can't really help yourself, and I mean, you can't help anybody else until you help yourself. I mean, no matter how much weight you could, what I'm saying, you could probably take on. What I'm saying, if you're already pulling hard on your own, I mean, you're just gonna drown. With everybody else with you. So, I mean, I respect that, man. I really do. So, what gives you purpose? What what I'm saying, what kind of drives you through everything you do?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think about it every day and I try to get closer to making sure that I have it right. When I was younger, it used to be, oh, like I want to help people and I wanted to help everyone. And then as I got older, I started realizing, well, I can't help everyone. And so that's kind of turned into how do I really double down on the things that I'm the best at? And then, go in and offer that to as many people as I can and in the most efficient way possible. But I do still have obviously this mission of just helping people to achieve their goals, whether that's something financial, something mental, something that just has to do with, you know, just success and definitely around personal wealth. I think it's something that um, I've been able to achieve like very specific, small things in my life. And I attribute that success to, first off, blessings and how I was raised. Secondly, um, luck. And then thirdly, to like at a pretty young age, I got introduced to the idea and the concept of the law of attraction, the secret, for those who have seen the documentary or read the book. And so I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to share some of the principles of some of that thinking. Dr. Wayne Dyer, um, Abraham Esther Hicks, even people like Alan Watts, like so that they can take more control of their lives, live happier lives. And for me, that's been the biggest thing. It's just like really finding that every day waking up happiness. And it's been really nice.
That's very nice. I mean, would you say kind of like you build your own peace within your own world per se? Or is it more of like you're still in your own journey and it's rocky no matter what? I mean, what's your perspective as far as that?
Yeah. I mean, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets. Um, and so with that, like what I really try to do is I just try to wake up and be thankful. And a lot of this comes from Abraham Hicks. Like I'm not, or Esther Hicks is her actual name. Um, I'm not coming up with all of this, but the idea of like when I get up, I make sure that my first step that I hit the floor with is like a thank you. And then I try to walk with each step being a thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, and that's very surface level. But then even, when you get up, writing down some of the things that you're thankful for, or some of the things that you like, that you desire as well. But just being really in tune with like what makes you feel good from a really early start in the day allows me to have the energy to what I do now is I go around every day. In the morning when I'm passing by people, I say good morning. Every day when I'm passing by people, I say good afternoon. Every day when I'm passing by people, I say good evening. And through that practice and also waking up at a very early time, I've been able to run into and meet some incredible people. Now, I'm in an area where there's a concentration of very interesting individuals, right? And here in Miami, right, like you will just run into different kinds of people, but what it's allowed me to do is feel comfortable talking to anyone. and also being able to get something from everyone, right? And I think that's something that's huge for me. It's just like everyone has something to share with you. And so the people that I admire the most, they embody that idea of, uh, there's always something that you can take away from somebody, and that's going to potentially make your life better. So, yeah.
I respect that, man. I mean, taking bits and pieces to fit in your puzzle, I mean, that's a beautiful way to think of life. I do appreciate the perspective. You know what I mean? I mean, even in my own, I kind of take those same principles to try to appreciate everything that I have and what comes to me. You know what I mean? Because at least for me in like my world, I know everything isn't going to be given, and even if it is for someone else, those are different circumstances, and that's a different life. Like the inevitable is the inevitable, and we can't change that, but the best you could do is make the best of what you have. I mean, resources are endless if you're willing to open your mind to what is there. But I mean,
Love that
again,
take.
everybody can live in their own echo chamber. You know what I'm saying? I mean, hey, everybody can live in their own echo chamber, man. I mean,
There's
it's their
something
own
really
world. That's why
important.
I don't even try to consume too much social media. Right?
There's something really important about what you said, I think, around like when you're open to it, like when you're open to receiving certain ideas, certain blessings, certain realities, they start to appear. And I think that's been one of the most interesting things. That's actually in my financial life has been one of the most um, just powerful things, because if I hadn't at a certain point like told myself where I was going to be financially, like I just wouldn't have been open to the ideas of looking at certain things that got me to a certain point financially. And that might not sound super substantive, but like it gives you, when you really like have faith in where you're headed and whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, and you really visualize what that feels like, and you really feel that emotion of what it feels like to be where you're trying to go. Once again, when you walk around the world and you start seeing things and you start talking to people, and it might not even be that. For me, it was just reading. Like I'm just reading, understanding how certain technologies work and things like that. And I had the conviction that once I understood something to a certain level, that this was something that was going to have a great impact in my life. And if I had really, really doubled down on this conviction, it could have been a whole different reality for me. But like I said, I wouldn't have even been looking for stuff like that. I wouldn't have even opened my mind to the possibilities if I hadn't told myself years ago that I was going to find it, whatever it was.
This is real. I mean, I know you mentioned earlier your involvement, growing in depth with as far as Web3 and crypto. I mean, what's do you want to expand anything as far as your knowledge, or even like, your mentality as far as it comes to digital ledger, or even just crypto as a whole?
I love the way you said it. Digital ledgers, distributed ledger technology is how I like to address it. Um, because I think there's a lot of negative connotations around the word cryptocurrency, and it's also not as encompassing of like what's really happening. And so when it comes to distributed ledger technology, there's a few different things that have massive implications for the future of technology in general. And where I want to like highlight is that, where the crypto side of it comes in is like money itself in the form that we see it today, and even 100 years ago, is in itself a technology. And what money is a technology that allows us to communicate our concept of values with one another. And so what's happened with the internet is we've had an evolution of money already, right? Like having money go from physical notes to ledgers and private databases, right? That no one else really necessarily has access to. Only, banking networks have access to these ledgers and to this money system. And even the Fed has a very specific, any central bank has this very specific system through which they allow commercial banks to sort of get access to government money. So as technology has changed, right, and has as the internet has evolved, like we're just seeing new ways to be able to actually share into the source of where this money is actually coming from and what it means. So zeros and ones now being money is something that can breach over into the world of the rest of tech, right? So when you look at Facebook, you look at Google, you look at Instagram, we already have our own value systems that are defined on those platforms. So when you come to Instagram or Facebook and you want to run ads, I can come in, I'm going to take my dollars that are zeros and ones in a bank account and spend them to be able to get a service to advertise on that platform. As an end user, I'm getting an ad. I might pay for something using the zeros and ones that are in my bank account on my mobile, on my, technically we use debit cards, but you even have things like Apple Wallet that make it even more seamless in a sense and more arbitrary that you have the debit card. Like, do you really need the debit card if the Apple is connected to your bank account? And then you have services like Zelle that abstract that even further. Excuse me, not Zelle, but Plaid, where you're connected right into your
Yes.
bank accounts and stuff like that through an API. And so, anyways, the point is that, like, imagine that instead of those being all these separate systems where, oh, I have a debit card and as an advertiser first, I'm going to pay Facebook, and then Facebook is going to take that ad, serve it, and then someone is going to pay for uh, my products on my platform as an advertiser, and then I'm going to take that money and then put it back on the Facebook through the bank account that I had. Like, really, we could have this ecosystem now where there's just credits that exist on that system. So I'm paying in Facebook dollars to run an ad to you. You're actually going to pay in Facebook dollars to get the services that I'm providing from that ad. And now there's a little bit more efficiency around how that value is moving around. We've cut out the need for the bank in that system. And so little things like that. But at a high level, if you can do that with data in general too, right? Like if that data has value and I can now take that data and it has a Zuck value or a Facebook money value, and we can take that to Google and say this data point is worth this on Google, there's just so much more that can be done. But I'll stop there.
I, but of course, I know you could, go even further. I know it with everything. I mean, most times, I mean, our problems now is regulatory clarity. I mean, we won't see that form of liquidity yet, because I mean that essentially is a large problem. I mean, even speaking there between, these different platforms and intermediaries, and then coming into banks. I mean, confirming all transactions all across the board. I mean, the process even now 2 to 3 days, whatever the case be, you can only see, what I'm saying, so much within that actually goes through. What I mean? And by the time any areas to process or whatever the case may be, it just makes it even more complicated. So I see a lot of like your visions. I know, many times in passings we have conversation. And I wish to definitely have more with you, what I mean, because
Most
that
definitely.
is something that, it that's all I can say. But uh what was my notes? I was going to say what and just as a wrapping up note, just just because of the timing, but what would you feel like you are something that you're improving towards? Like what do you have any goals that kind of like drive any of your personal, like let's say your personal improvement, whatever you want to do on your own time, you know what I'm saying? So like, is there anything like that you could express upon as far as that help towards you, you know what I'm saying, your goals or whatever? Like, is it more like, let's say, even if it's in routines to help you focus more, or like just like how you mentioned on the 100 days without a substance within your body, is there anything else that kind of helps towards that, or do you kind of just take more of an approach of kind of like a fasting or separating yourself from an abuse of any sort? You know, what's your perspective as
Yeah.
far as that?
I think you framed it well too, because there's a lot of ways to look at it. So I try to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I take cold showers in the morning. It kind of helps you to wake up and also releases like dopamine in your brain. So like so Dr. Andrew Huberman, he has a great podcast and just is a great speaker and a doctor who talks about a lot of ways to kind of just make the most out of your brain. So focusing in on me for finding ways to optimize, the way that I use my brain on a daily basis is huge. And that comes down to listening to podcasts more and reading more, which means for me, I love music. So I try to find ways I'm like, that's my biggest thing now is how do I cut music out of my day a little bit so that I can actually spend more time learning about things that'll help me optimize my brain, keep myself in good moods, and, be more efficient, accomplish more throughout the day as well. Um, Another thing for me is just really nailing down what it is that my big picture is so that I can open my mind up to what it is that I need to be doing on a daily basis to further that even more. Right. So I have a podcast. I'm working on financial licenses and getting a real estate license, things like that, which is great. But I need to be like, I have a little bit of space where I can be doing more. So how do I define what's going to get me closer to that, as well as like optimizing my brain and my physical has been another big thing. I put on like 10 pounds in the last couple of months, just working out hard, eating differently. Diet is huge. So everything that's coming in and trying to create more that comes out. That's kind of the biggest thing right now.
So that building on your efficiency, I respect that a lot. I kind of do the same in my own time, working towards what my goals are and what I really want to see. But yeah, man, I mean, I really do appreciate having you, you know what I'm saying? And I hope that, we can continue more conversations in the future, of course.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you for having me on. I'm happy to find ways to chat about whatever's convenient. There's a lot of things going on in the world. I'm doing my best to read up on things that are happening with politics. I have never been political, trying to read more up on politics, trying to read more up on regulations around, obviously, technology, finance. There's a lot happening there at once. Um, and yeah, man, just trying to stay on top of news, even just, Jay Powell and the economy right now is in a very interesting place. So happy to find, ways to talk
Of
about
course.
all of it, man. So, or any of it. So appreciate you.
Of course, man, well as base percentage points they've been increasing on us, I mean, it's been something with inflation, but no, yeah, we'll definitely have more, man. And of course, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate any viewers out there that might be watching now. So of course, as another recording goes, thank you for coming.